Gina and Jack are first-time parents who will be bringing home 6 babies, so they're going to need lots of help. Now, for those of you who are willing to continue once the babies are at home, there's a volunteer sign-up sheet at the check-in desk.
I bet every parent of multiples would love the hospital sign-up sheet, where people can sign up to help them out. Whew. That would be lovely, wouldn't it? Giving the trainees all those NICU secrets, teaching the families, bringing you physiology and the latest evidence and management of NICU babies. Just having fun with it. All right, I'm Dr. Ford, the NICU doc, and thank you for joining my channel. I am a real-life neonatologist, that is, a specialist that take care of premature babies or babies that are born with some type of defect, some type of problem that come into the neonatal intensive care unit. I have actually delivered 5 babies with the help of my colleagues, delivered 5 babies, quintuplets. Today, I am super excited to bring you The Good Doctor, Season 6, Episode 7. We're gonna be looking at Boys Don't Cry, where they delivered 6 tuplets, 6 babies. So, excited to bring that to you. Why don't we go ahead and get started? So for copyright reasons, some of the images may look a little bit different, but most importantly, we're gonna get to what they're talking about. I will stop and explain all these, medical mumbo jumbo stuff. All right, let's go ahead and get started.
I wish they could stay inside mom longer and get bigger.
Baby F's airway mass is already causing severe narrowing of the trachea, and her lungs aren't developing properly. A few more days and her heart could fail.
So we deliver today?
Yes.
Okay, actually, so this is important. Let's talk about this. What the doctor here is talking about, and again, I'm sorry I don't watch the show, so I don't know all the characters. But what this doctor, I presume is a neonatologist, is explaining is that in utero, so before the delivery, this baby F has developed a mass, or they have found and visualized a mass that is causing some compression on the trachea, the main windpipe. Now, a lot of people think, well, no big deal, the babies don't breathe inside. That is true. However, the way the lung develops, the actual lungs, is that there is constant flow of fluid. So if there is something that's obstructing the airway and you're not getting fluid into the lungs, then the lungs will be underdeveloped, just like the doctor is explaining right here.
Everyone ready? Baby A through baby E will all be born in under 3 minutes.
Baby A.
At birth, they'll each be given an APGAR score to let us know how they are doing. 7 or above is reassuring.
It's a girl.
So they talk about APGAR, and APGAR scores are given to all babies, not just preemies. It was developed by Dr. Virginia APGAR. And what it does is that it tells you a degree of resuscitation, how well is the baby being resuscitated and coming out, and a score of 7 and above on an APGAR score at 5 minutes is actually indicative of a good outcome. That means that baby is transitioning out from being in utero to real life and doing very well. If you have a score of 5 or less in your 5-minute APGAR, then it usually is leading to a poor outcome. So you really want to do the best that you can within your 5 minutes. APGAR scores are done at 1 minute and 5 minutes. Sometimes we progress to 10-minute, 15-minute. If things are not going well, we're still counting the APGARs. So that's APGAR score. All right, this is really good.
Baby B.
All right, hello.
Baby A.
APGAR 7.
It's a boy. Surprise. Monodi. B and C share the same placenta. Very rare. Identical twins.
They mentioned briefly monodi. What does that mean? That means monochorionic diamniotic. What that means is that those 2 babies were actually developed within the same placenta. That's why they say identical twins. They were essentially being formed and then split. So they have the same placenta, monochorionic, same placenta, and diamniotic means that they actually have their own little sac or amnion. Within that, they have their own fluid, their umbilical cords, and so on and so forth. So they have the same, they share the same placenta, but they have their own little protective sac, their home, if you will. All right.
Good boy, obviously.
Baby B, Apgar 5.
Baby C, Apgar 4.
Baby D.
It's a boy.
Baby E.
Baby D, Apgar 6.
Spina bifida.
Maybe E's a girl.
So it looks like the OBGYN or maternal fetal medicine doctor who delivers that baby calls it spina bifida. That's essentially a syndrome. What we're actually seeing on this baby is called a myelomeningocele. What that is essentially you have your spinal cord in the back, and when there are nerves and actually the spinal cord is covered by this sheath called the meninges, and essentially these wrapping around the spinal cord and also the brain itself. But when the skin, which normally when the baby's been developed comes together like so, if the vertebrae and the bones that hold the spinal cord and the skin, they do not close, you'll actually see the nerves and the meninges come out. That is what you're seeing on that spot in the back. It looks like a golf ball of colored tissue, and that is a myelomeningocele. When there isn't actual nerve tissue, you can actually see that same kind of ball. If the nerve tissue is inside the body, this is called just a meningocele, meaning it's just a tissue without nerves. When it's all together, it's a myelomeningocele. We don't really know what it is specifically in this baby. And again, spina bifida is, the most the common term, but that comes with, again, not being able to walk and all so on and so forth. We don't know that just yet. What we're seeing is a myelomeningocele.
Baby E, Apgar 6.
Baby E will go to the OR for her spina bifida surgery after delivery.
Exposing baby F to exit procedure.
Once baby A through baby E are in the NICU, Dr. Barnes will deliver baby F's arm and head through the C-section incision, leaving the placenta attached. And Mom, that allows you to keep providing oxygen to your daughter. Understanding? Take Papa to check on his other babies. We're all good here, Jack.
Okay, we definitely have to pause here. So the exit procedure is also known as ex utero intrapartum treatment, exit. And essentially what this is that when the uterus is cut and when the baby comes out, normally you would go ahead and clamp the cord and then remove the baby. However, you are still using that cord to bring oxygen from the mother to the baby and then releasing all the toxins from the baby to the mother while you are doing some surgical procedure or sometimes an intubation. So an exit procedure is where the baby comes out but is still hooked on through the umbilical cord and the placenta, getting all the good things from mom and removing all the bad things from the baby while you are doing some type of procedure.
Cystis decompressed, airways open. Placing ET tube.
I will say, I wish placing an ET tube, an endotracheal tube, meaning that little plastic that goes into the trachea, that windpipe so you can actually breathe, would be that easy.
And how's the star of our show? Baby F.
Not singing yet, but airways clear.
Take her to NICU. Hopefully she cries soon.
So baby F, the star is a star because it sounds like she's had this tracheal lesion. However, the doctor says, well, hopefully she'll cry soon. Yes, but you need to take the tube out for them to cry. If you have a breathing tube in the vocal cords can move, close, and sing, therefore they cannot cry. So she may look and maybe having attempts to cry, but you're not gonna hear the crying unless that tube has come out. All right, let's keep this going. This is great.
My hero.
Where are my babies?
They're in the NICU now.
Except
Listen to those healthy lungs.
First to cry. She's an overachiever.
What do you think about Abigail?
Forever, baby, eh? I love it. And her.
Alright, so it's not uncommon for baby A actually to do better. Usually the first baby that comes out, they tend to do better than the ones that remain a little bit in there, because obviously there is decreased perfusion. The longer the baby stays, there is decreased perfusion, decreased blood flow to the last baby. So baby A's tend to do better.
How about it, B? Can we get those lungs strong enough to move you to a CPAP? You read those studies on covenant identical preemies?
No. C-cyanotic, he's tachypnic and retracting.
Check his liver. The research is totally shaded by confirmation bias.
Palpable 3 centimeters below the costal margin.
If you'd been more assertive, we wouldn't be stuck together.
Systolic murmur. I want you more, sir.
If I were a surgical attending, I would have been. I had a fight just to be on this case. You're gonna need an echo, chest
X-ray,
X-ray.
BMP, and C to confirm congestive heart failure, I know. Let's make a deal. We only talk to each other when medically necessary.
Fine.
Okay, so what that doctor is describing is respiratory distress. You have cyanosis, meaning that the body is not saturated, the oxygen level is low. You have retractions, meaning the baby is actually breathing hard and fast. Now, the other doctor, the female doctor, says check the liver. What they're getting at here is some type of congenital heart defect or something abnormal in the heart. So when you see it in older population, you actually get something like congestive heart failure, meaning the heart is not pumping well and functional enough to be able to get rid of the blood, and so everything kind of backs up and pushes on the liver. The liver gets engorged, and so the liver gets big. This is why the female doctor mentions check the liver. The male doctor then is feeling, and the liver is 3 centimeters below the costal margin, meaning the edge of the ribs. You should not be feeling the liver in a newborn baby. So what they're getting at is congenital heart disease, something going on in the heart, some abnormality. However, one little mistake here. When you have congenital heart disease, they're right, you would actually be bluish, but you're not necessarily in respiratory distress. You may actually have a baby with congenital heart disease that is breathing normally but looks blue.
Insert the needle into the posterior iliac crest. Later, I have to accompany Leah to an OBGYN appointment. Dr. Andrews will supervise you for a few.
Stop! Alright, this is where completely wrong. We do not insert. This is supposed to be, looks like a lumbar puncture, so where you're actually trying to enter a small space in the back to be able to get some fluid to determine if you have infection in the fluid that surrounds and bathes the brain, and also more importantly the spinal cord. In this case, they're trying to see if there's infection there, something called meningitis. You do not go in the posterior iliac space. That is actually a bony structure. If you're going to go in that area, you're doing a biopsy. You do that in older kids and adults. For a lumbar puncture, you do not touch that area at all. Little mistake there.
Administer 2 mils surfactant prophylactically.
No indication of RDS. She's on minimal settings. I'd actually like to decrease support and remove CPAP.
Yeah?
No reason she can't breathe on her own now that our airway is clear. Come on, baby F. Deep breaths. Her basketball rival Clay texted me, asked me out.
Get out. I assure you this guy knows it's a real date.
If I go.
You're going. That's our girl.
Alright, let me just stop right there and say I love this part. Okay, as a minimalist that I am, the way I practice is I try to take stuff off as quickly as possible. If you can try and prevent from giving, meds and all these things, and we can start taking stuff off, that's best. Try to keep babies as natural as possible. So I love that. We normally give surfactant. So she mentions, the first doctor, female doctor mentions surfactant. Surfactant is actually a bubbly substance, a kind of milky bubbly substance that we all have. Older babies have it and we adults have it, and it helps prevent the lung from collapsing. When you take a nice deep breath and it's coming back down again, this substance allows you to keep the lung open for your next breath. If you don't have surfactant, like preemie babies sometimes are lacking surfactant, they will actually collapse and stick together, and it makes it really hard for the lung to reopen. So if you have RDS, respiratory distress syndrome, which is one of the most common things that we see in preemies, it is because they're lacking or have low levels of that surfactant. So we can actually give that, and it's a milky substance that we give through the tube into the airways, into the trachea, and then goes down to the lungs, to these little alveoli, which are your air sacs. So you can give that liquid. But what the other doctor says is, well, you know what? I'm actually seeing improvement. We don't need to give that surfactant. We're gonna stay and we're gonna actually take off that CPAP and see what the baby does. And we do that often. Let's see what the baby does. Every baby is very different. So we give them a trial taking stuff off and see if they can breathe on room air. Okay, let's see what happens next.
Baby E's lungs are filled with fluid, and she's in early heart failure. She may need to be reintubated, which would mean placing her on her back. That would make it harder for her surgical wound to heal.
That doesn't sound good.
She's very sick. It's possible she may not survive. We'll pray for a miracle. It wouldn't be our first. I can arrange a visit from the hospital chaplain if you like. You can baptize the baby. No. You're asking me to let her go. I'm not ready to do that. You can't either.
Please.
Of course.
So one of the hardest things that I have to do as a neonatologist is have these conversations where you have to sit with the family, you have to explain what's going on, but then you also just have to be honest. Ultimately, you have to be transparent and honest because this is their baby. They have to know, they deserve to know, they have the right to know what's going on with their baby. And there's no sugarcoating these conversations. I think, as one of the doctors mentioned, you cannot sugarcoat these conversations. You just have to be honest, but you do sort of learn how to deliver this information. I think this doctor did a great job at being honest. You lower your voice, you speak to them directly. You can see that the doctor's actually having a conversation face to face with the family and letting them know that there is unfortunately a possibility that their baby could pass, that the baby could die. So this part is very well done. I think the show did an excellent job at portraying these very, very difficult and emotional conversations.
Snowman sign on the chest x-ray.
Could be TAPPR, transposition of the great vessels, Epstein anomaly, or pulmonary atresia.
I don't see differential cyanosis. That rules out transposition of the great vessels.
No boot-shaped heart either.
Or gallop.
So it is TAPPR.
All right, it's truly exciting in these shows when you hear all this medical terminology. All right, fine, I'm the only one that gets excited about this stuff, especially when it's baby stuff. So they mentioned several things. They talk about TAPVR, they talk about a snowman on the x-ray. So snowman usually means that the upper part of the x-ray looks like a little round ball, and then the lower part where the heart is looks like a wider, rounder ball. That usually goes with something called TAPVR, or total anomalous pulmonary venous return. Normally we have 4 veins going and feeding back into the heart. Those 4 veins are pulmonary veins coming from the left and the right side of the lung, and they feed really good oxygenated blood back into the left side of the heart, so the heart can then feed that really nice, rich, oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. Well, with TAPVR, total anomalous pulmonary venous return, those veins do not feed back into the heart. They either feed in the upper part of the body or the lower part of the body, or sometimes behind the heart itself. What that means is that those veins which come with good, rich oxygenated blood are now mixing with deoxygenated blood. So you tend to see a baby who is desaturated, who has lower sats than usual.
Shouldn't have let you talk to them. Miracles, really?
I was direct and honest.
How's that being honest? They think there's a chance here.
As long as she's breathing, her heart is beating, her brain is functioning, there's still hope.
This infant is under 2 pounds. 11 weeks premature with a major birth defect. She's more than likely too small, too weak, and too sick to survive. Stop being a cheerleader.
Always be a cheerleader for babies. Always. Yes, we have to be honest, and yes, we have to have these conversations, but you never kill hope. You talk to the family, you give them hope, you listen to the family, and you work with them. Always, always be a cheerleader.
You're distracted. Want to walk me through your case so far?
Exit procedure for chaos. Cyst was decompressed. We weaned her off CPAP. O2 sats improved, then started crashing. Not sure why. Pass me the ghost pepper sauce, would you?
Ooh, foot that stuff's gonna burn a hole in my chest. What if your preemies' breathing troubles aren't from above? What if it's from below? Diaphragmatic hernia could allow the baby's lower organs to protrude into her chest, crowd her lungs.
If it started as a small defect, we could easily miss it on ultrasound with all the crowding in that womb.
Yes, doctors do talk about medicine on dates. Guilty. We try not to, but yeah. So they talk about a congenital diaphragmatic hernia. So what is that? So normally we have the chest and the abdominal cavity separated by the diaphragm, the main muscle of breathing. When you are taking a deep breath, that muscle will contract and pull air essentially into the lungs, and then it will relax, pushing air out, aside from all the other muscles of respiration. But when that muscle is being created, if there's a small defect or a small hole where the muscle didn't come together, that is where you can actually herniate. What that means is push through the intestines, because the abdominal cavity, if you bear down or if a baby cries or when it's being developed, the intestines, there's higher pressure in the abdomen when the intestines are being created and developed in the whole abdominal cavity. There's higher pressure, so it will seep through a side of that defect in the diaphragm, and you'll have intestines into the lungs.
O2 sats are falling. I need suction and a ventilator. Paige Andrews, she's bradycardic. She's not getting enough oxygen.
Oh man, I love this. So the baby has an episode where the oxygen drops and the baby becomes bradycardic, meaning the heart rate actually drops. You see the normal heart rates are between 120, 150. This baby drops to the 80s. That's the upper number you see with the green lines. So we are having an apneic event. What is that? The babies actually stop breathing. This is actually really common in premature babies because they are sometimes forgetting the brain, and the back of the brain where the respiratory center is forgets to send a signal to the muscles to take a nice deep breath because the brain is still developing and immature. So they have these little pauses.
The groin.
What?
What?
The groin?
If we can't access the baby's chest, we can check the groin. If she has bounding femoral pulses,
It would indicate a patent ductus arteriosus.
which would explain the fluid in her lungs and the heart failure, which can be fixed with a piccolo occluder. Go get consent and an aspirin.
All right, you can't talk about prematurity without talking about the patent ductus arteriosus, or the PDA. I'm so glad they have brought this into the show. That's great. Not exactly presenting like this. What they're talking about with the femoral and the bounding pulses is that you actually do the PDA. What it is a connection between the two main arteries coming out of the heart, the aorta and the pulmonary artery. There's a connection that needs to be there, it needs to be actually open for the babies to develop in utero. But usually after the baby's delivered or born, a full-term baby closes after a few days. In premature babies, they tend to stay longer. Now, if there is a large PDA, blood will actually flow, too much blood will flow into the lungs and can cause a lot of edema within the lungs, meaning a lot of swelling. It makes it harder for them to breathe. You can actually have even pulmonary hemorrhage, which is bleeding inside the lungs.
But still not crying. Ready to show your brother how it's done?
Okay, really cute that they have the twins together. One cries and the other one cries. Sounds like fantasy, but it's actually real. A lot of the times you actually have, in the nursery, babies are sleeping, one will cry and you're gonna get a wave of cries going from where it started.
You were. It was the wrong decision. You should feel bad, but not too bad.
All right, and so it looks like all of them get to cry. And again, we do love it when they cry, but that's not, first of all, the start or the end of it. If a baby's breathing fine and doing okay, it doesn't have to cry for us to say, yay, everything's gonna be great. And at the same point, once they start crying, that's great, but there's still a lot of things. Preemies obviously need to get to learn to eat, to grow. There are other things that can still happen. Being unfortunately in the NICU, there's risk for infection. And so, bad things can still happen. They're not out of the blues. However, I love the way they ended this. It's a happy feeling. Everybody is, all the babies end up doing well and get saved. And that's wonderful. I really thought that the show did a great job at portraying what the NICU life is like. Obviously the multiples that we deliver sometimes can be really crazy and hard for the families and for the doctors, but you can actually save the deliveries of multiple deliveries. You can do really well. These babies can really grow, get healthy, and be able to go home. That's always what we want, what we aim for in the NICU, is to be able to bring babies that are small or have problems, get them better, get them growing, get them to go home happy with the families. So I love what the show did here. Please let me know if you want me to do, if there are other shows, with babies, with NICUs, with prematurity, things like that. Let me know in the comments section. I'm happy to do a reaction of those videos. Also, let me know if you have questions about, that episode. If you have questions about anything I said, let me know in the comment section. As always, if you haven't done so, please do subscribe to my channel for all the, baby and NICU stuff. And I'll just keep, doing more of these videos to, get you to learn more about babies and the NICU. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and we'll see you with the next video.
He's competitive. He likes to do everything before his brother.
So he's an empath. I waited until he knew his brother would be okay before doing his thing. Byron and Christopher.
EJ. Her name is EJ. It stands for Erin Jordan. Thank you both. Meet baby F. Francesca.
Note that they actually call the names by A, B, C, D, E, and F. That is actually really common in the NICU. We see that all the time. Names named by when they were born, A, B, C, D, or so on and so forth. So true. This is real. Absolutely. Love it.